Something stirs in the darkness, and it knows you're here. Tonight, we commune with the dead, an ancient Ouija board, restless spirits, and messages from beyond the grave. They say it's just a game, but the dead have secrets to tell. If you hunger for darkness, join the pack. Subscribe, like, and let the spirits know you're listening. Now, place your hands upon the board, my hunters. Ask your questions, but beware the answers. Best Friends. Chapter 1. Joey and Drew were the best of friends since they had first been sat together by their teacher in second class. Thick as thieves was the term used to describe their relationship by others who knew them. But they were outsiders. They knew the others could never understand what it was to truly have someone in your corner, who always had your back. One boy could always count on the other, no matter what. So when Joey's mom was killed suddenly in a car accident, he leant on Drew for the support he felt he couldn't get from his father, James. Not only was his dad also grieving, but James and Joey had always been just a little distant. They were close, of course, but they were never quite as open and honest about their feelings as Joey and his mother were. Drew now filled that immense void in his life, and to Joey, he became more like a big brother than a best friend, and he knew exactly what Joey was going through. It was just he and his father, John, as his mother had gone missing years ago when he was too young to remember. When the boys were about 16, they were invited to a school breakup party at their friend Alicia's house. Drew had always been a little keen on Alicia, but had never struck up the nerve to ask her out, even with much encouragement from Joey. Alicia's house was located on a small rural property just on the outskirts of town, and the plan was to watch scary videos in the family's home theater room until everyone fell asleep. It was often said that Alicia had the coolest parents ever, and this event only served to reinforce that sentiment, as both her mom and dad joined in the celebrations until everyone lay in various slumber positions on the floor of the theater room to begin the horror fest. With tummies filled with junk food and soda, it was 2 movies in before everyone started to settle and drift off to sleep. By movie 3, everyone but Joey and Drew, Alicia and her friend Erin was sleeping soundly. Alicia whispered that she was now bored and asked if anyone would like to check out something freaky. "What if your parents wake up while we aren't here?" Erin asked. "You really are a scaredy cat, Erin," Alicia scoffed. "I'll leave a note for them. We're only going out to the barn. It's no biggie. I always hang out there. They'll be totally cool about it." The 3 teens agreed, so they all quietly headed out of the room, trying not to trip over the collection of bodies strewn out like corpses all over the floor. Alicia wrote the note and left it on the counter as she had promised, grabbed the torch, and the group headed out to the barn. The building was about 3 minutes' walk from the house, but the driveway was dimly lit by solar lights every car length or so. As the group walked along laughing and talking about how awesome school breakup was going to be and what plans each had until school returns, it started to sprinkle rain. As they reached the barn, it was getting heavier. Alicia unlatched the door and slid it open just enough for them to step through and closed it again behind them. Apart from the dim torch glow, they stood in the near darkness for a moment as Alicia headed over to the switch box to turn on the lights. These were more ambient lighting than bright. "What about the fluorescent lights, Alicia? It's still pretty dark in here," Aaron asked with hesitation. "Nah, it'll upset the horses." "This is much better," Alicia replied as she motioned toward some hay bales over beside the tack room. Chapter 2. As the teens all milled around looking for somewhere to sit, Alicia went into the tack room and took out a box from under a horse rug in the corner, then came out to sit down with her friends. "I found this in the attic with my grandma's stuff. I don't think Mum and Dad even knew it was there," she began as she placed the old cardboard box on the soft hay in the center of the group. "What is it?" Joey asked inquisitively. "Wow, it looks really old." "I think it's super old, and I've heard about these, but I've never ever seen one before. Want to see?" Alicia squealed with infectious excitement. The three couldn't deny their eagerness to see what the box contained, so they agreed. As the rain became heavier outside the barn, they moved in closer to sit in a circle on the hay so they could get a good look as Alicia slowly lifted the lid. As the contents was revealed, the group sat silently for a moment, almost holding their breath in unison. But their deep concentration was suddenly shattered by Aaron's high-pitched panic. "No way! A Ouija board! I am not touching that. Haven't you heard what terrible things can happen if you use one of those?" Both Drew and Joey were wary, but intrigued by the old timberboard that sat in the box. They both looked at each other with mischievous, silent grins, and like an unspoken language, both knew they were up for giving it a try. "Well," said Alicia as she grinned at Aaron's fear-filled expression, "if you don't want to be a part of this, you'll just have to walk back up to the house by yourself." "And in the rain too," Joey added. "And without the torch, 'cause we need that in case there's a blackout or something," Drew chimed in. "Come on, Aaron. You don't really believe these things can actually be a portal to the spirit world, do you? You really have watched too many horror movies, haven't you?" Joey was really goading her now, just to see what her reaction would be. "Well, maybe I have," she said as she stood up. "And maybe I have read too many scary stories. And maybe I really am a scaredy cat. But I am telling you right now, that thing is a gateway, and I am not touching that Ouija board." Aaron marched over to the door, slid it open, pulled her hoodie up over her head, and bolted out into the darkness. The remaining teens paused for a moment, looking out into the blackness of the rain, then back at each other, finally erupting in uncontrollable laughter. "What a wuss," Alicia spluttered as she walked over and slid the door shut again. "Can't believe she even had the guts to go back to the house by herself, actually," said Drew. Joey agreed. "I know, right? That was surprising. I was sure she was going to come straight back." "Well, what do we do now, Alicia?" "Give me a hand with this." Alicia grabbed a hold of the baling twine on one of the hay bales. "First, we need a table," she said as she started to drag it. The two boys pitched in, and in no time at all, the three were kneeling around the bale as Alicia was removing the items from the box. She placed the Ouija board in the center of the bale, then put the pointer on top of the board. "Now what?" Drew asked. "Now we all have to be touching the pointer for it to work." 6 hands now rested on the planchette, and the silent wait began. For the first few minutes, the group were quietly looking at the board. Joey was admiring the grain patterns in the timber, as well as noting how the letters were faded, almost like they had been worn off by the pointer passing over them so many times. Drew, on the other hand, was quietly relishing the fact that his hands were not only resting on the planchette, but were also touching Alicia's hands. They were warm, and he contemplated moving his fingers a little to gauge her reaction. Not that he feared a ribbing from Joey, as he knew his bestie would not publicly humiliate him that way. But what did concern him was Alicia's possible rejection of his advances, and that would be devastating. He decided he would rather not know and live in hope than for all chance to be dashed in one instant. So he sat, still and silently. In the end, it was Alicia who broke first. "Maybe this thing doesn't work," she said with a sigh. "Or maybe we just have to ask it something," Joey suggested in a hopeful tone. "Okay, let's try that. What about?" She hesitated for a second. "Is there anyone there?" "Nothing." "Hello? Is there anyone there?" she asked again impatiently, but still there was no sign of movement. Joey decided to give it a try. "Is there someone there?" he said firmly. Slowly, the pointer began to slide across the board. It stopped on the word yes. The three teens were no longer aloof about the situation. They were now in a heightened state of fight or flight, as yet undecided on whether to act on their fear instinct, break contact with the planchette, and bolt back up to the house as Aaron had done 20 minutes before. As their heart rates eventually began to slow and the adrenaline began to subside, they now realized that they were not only all still there, but that a spirit or entity was now waiting for them to respond. Recognizing that the answer had come to Joey, Alicia nodded for him to continue. "What is your name?" he asked, noting how his voice was filled with trepidation as he spoke. The pointer started to move. Firstly to the letter J, then E, then N. As it completed the name, Joey realized that he was now holding his breath, and he blew it out as he whispered, "No way." He contemplated what to do next. Alicia was surveying Joey's face, searching for why he was now frozen and staring at the pointer. She then looked at Drew as he began to explain. "Jenny, that's Joey's mom's name. She died in a car crash back when we were 8 years old." They all just sat there for what seemed like ages, not moving, nor speaking. Just waiting for Joey or the pointer to make the next move. But Joey didn't move. He couldn't. He felt paralyzed by the thought that his mother was reaching out to him from the other side. He was afraid that maybe he had disappointed her in some way. Or maybe she wanted to tell him something that he didn't want to know about the future, about where she was, how she died, or what death was like. Joey's twisted thoughts completely engrossed his mind, until he finally became aware of his friend Drew's calming voice encouraging him. "Joey, it'll be okay, buddy. It's your mom. She could never hurt you. Just talk to her." Joey looked up at Drew. His eyes were calming to him. He trusted his friend. They had been through so much together over the years, so if Drew wasn't afraid, it must be all right. Joey took a deep breath, nodded at Drew, and swallowed hard. "Mom, I miss you so much. Where did you go?" The pointer once again began to move across the board. As it landed on each letter, the three teens began to spell them out in unison until finally, Joey had his answer. Hell. This time, Alicia totally lost it. She screamed and jumped to her feet, breaking her contact with the pointer, crying in utter fear. She began pacing backwards and forwards, muttering and pulling at her hair and clothes. "Calm down, Joe," Drew said as evenly as he could manage. "Don't break contact, buddy. If you do, we could lose contact with your mom. Then we may never find out what she's trying to tell you. Okay?" Once again, Joey looked to his friend for reassurance. "You can do this, Joe. Take a deep breath, mate, and talk to your mom." Joey nodded hesitantly, then returned his focus back to the board, blocking out the sounds of Alicia feverishly ranting her gibberish in the background. "Mum, what do you mean, hell?" Joey was holding his breath. How would he ever deal with the confirmation that there was such a place as hell, or that his mother was in it? The pointer was now moving faster than before. Drew and Joey continued to spell out the letters together as it completed the next phrase. So much pain. Joey's eyes instantly filled with tears. How could this be? His mother couldn't be in hell. He remembered her as the perfect mother. They were so close. She was always loving and kind to him and his father. How could this happen? Drew tried to compose his best friend. "The whole story," Drew said. "That's only half. We need the whole story." As soon as Drew finished speaking, the pointer began moving again. Both boys were stunned. Up until this point, it had only been responding to Joey's voice. Now, it was feverishly answering to Drew. The boys continued to spell out the letters as their hands sped across the board with a newfound gusto. "You were never meant to find each other. Brothers, he will never let you go. So much pain. He still does not know." By now, Alicia was huddled over in the corner, quietly rocking back and forth in a semi-catatonic state. Drew and Joey were even more confused. But they had come so far. They had to continue. "What does she mean, brothers?" "Drew, what is she talking about?" "I have no idea." "Jenny, what do you mean?" The next word stunned them both. "Twins." Drew and Joey now looked at each other with fresh eyes. Suddenly their bond made complete and utter sense. They weren't just friends that had met in the second grade. They were twin brothers. No wonder their unspoken conversations came so easily to them. No wonder they somehow knew what each other was thinking, even when they were miles apart. And no wonder they always felt like brothers, because they were. Though they both wanted desperately to hug each other in this realization, there was still some clarification needed. So they dare not break contact with the pointer. Finally, Drew knew what to ask next. "Who will not let me go?" Came the reply, swift but concise. "Stepfather." Drew was losing it. He had just gained a twin brother. But now he had discovered that John Walker, the man he had known as his father, suddenly was not. Drew grappled with the implications. "He still doesn't know," the board repeated. So much pain. Drew was now shaking in terror. All color had drained from his face. The Ouija board that had started out telling Joey about hell was now firmly focused on warning Drew. "Who's in pain, Mum?" Joey asked, already convinced that she was. Just a 4-letter reply. "Drew." Joey looked at his twin brother. He looked terrified. The strong one who was always there to calm him, to console him, to help and protect him, was now the one that needed all of those things. Joey shifted his hands, being careful not to break contact so that he could cover Drew's hands while he asked the next question. "Mom, why is Drew in pain?" There was no reply. "Mom, answer me," he said again firmly. "Why is Drew in pain?" But the pointer refused to budge. Joey looked at his brother. The fear that a moment ago had filled his face had now changed to rage and determination. He took a deep breath and finally told his brother the reason he was in so much pain. The words that he vowed to never utter to anyone for fear of the foulness that he would taste as he spoke them. "He hurts me." Joey's mind reeled. How could the one who is so strong in everything now appear so broken and shattered before his very eyes? It filled Joey with so much rage, he could no longer control it. He screamed out in anger as he stood and walked over to the tack room and punched the wall. Drew remained where he was, still with his hands on the planchette. He watched as his non-identical twin paced, not knowing what to do with all of the pent-up anger that was surging through him. "Why didn't you tell me, Drew? We are best friends. I could have done something. I could have helped. I didn't know." His voice trailed off as he finished that last sentence. The boys looked at each other with the same sudden realization. If they had been connecting with Joey's mother this entire time, doesn't that mean that she was Drew's mother too? "Go on, Drew, ask her." "Jenny, what happened to my mother?" At first, there was no reply. Then, just as they began to think that the connection was lost, it started to move. "Your mother?" "Yes," Drew said. "My mother. What happened to my mother? My and Joey's mother." This time, the planchette added one extra word. "Is your mother." The boys were puzzled. The barn seemed to be spinning. There was one question that could help all of this make sense, and both boys realized it at the same moment. "Go on, Drew. Ask her." "Are we related?" Drew said slowly. The boys spelled out the letters. "Aunt." Stunned, Drew lost his balance. As he did so, the planchette slid to the edge of the board and toppled. The connection had been lost. The twin boys finally understood the gravity of what had just taken place. The woman Joey had known as his mother was, in fact, his Aunt Jenny, and the mother that Drew had lost whilst he was very young had been the boy's real mother. The brothers embraced and wept as they consoled each other. Once they regained their composure, they went over to the corner to help Alicia. She was still crying, but was eventually calm enough to head back up to the house. Drew was even brave enough to hold her hand as they walked. Now dawn, as they entered the house, they found Aaron nervously sitting at the kitchen bench. "Oh, thank goodness. I didn't know what to do, or if you were all okay. I was going to call the police," she blurted. "We're okay, Aaron. But we do need to call the police," Joey said, as he put his hand on Drew's back to reassure him. Chapter 3. After the boys sat down with the police, Drew made his statement about what he had been enduring for years at the hands of his stepfather, John. They also gave details about the knowledge that was given to them by their Aunt Jenny. "I know it all sounds crazy, but this all feels real to me," Drew told the officers. "Please, you have to believe us." don't worry. We are taking your allegations against your stepfather very seriously indeed. Now, do you have any idea where we might find this John Walker right now?" Drew glanced up at the clock on the wall. It was 3 p.m. Yes, he would be at work right now. He's a mechanic at JT's Auto. Thank you, Drew. You are a very brave young man. This Mr. Walker is well known to police, and we will be placing him in custody by the end of the day. In the meantime, there is someone here who would really like to see you both. The door opened. It was Joey's dad, James, and even though the full story was still unclear, the three embraced as if they were a father and his 2 sons. John Walker was arrested at his place of employment that afternoon and taken in for questioning. However, he refused to talk to police and demanded his lawyer. It was discovered that she was currently out of town and wouldn't be arriving until the next morning. So John was placed in a holding cell for the night. At around 3 a.m., he was awoken by the deafening sound of a slamming door. There were 5 other cells in his block, but they were all empty. As he peered out through the cell bars into the darkness, he couldn't see anyone or any reason why the door would have slammed. He decided that it must have been a sudden gust of wind, so he walked back to his bunk. As he turned to sit, he thought he saw a shadow move across the corner of his cage. As he tried to focus in the dim light, he thought he could see a dark shape standing opposite him. Assuming that this must be his lawyer, he stepped forward to greet her, but as he moved, the figure disappeared. What the hell? He scanned the entire lockup, but there was no one. John, you're losing it, man," he mumbled softly to himself as he shook his head. But as he spoke, he noticed that it had now turned very cold. He opened his mouth and blew out a cold, misty breath into the darkness. "You don't deserve to be here, John," a voice whispered from behind him. John spun around. There was someone there. Not his lawyer, though, but something else. "Who are you?" John barked. "You don't belong here." This time, more forcefully. At this stage, he could not make out who was speaking to him. There was no decipherable body, no face, just a dark, shadowy form standing before him. "What do you want from me?" he said as he struggled to fathom what he was dealing with. "You have no right to be here. You do not belong. I will not let you have him." The voice was stronger now. It still sounded strained, but John could now tell that the voice was female. "What are you talking about?" John quipped. There was no way that he was going to be intimidated by anyone, let alone by a woman. "Get out of here," he yelled, now moving towards her. As he did so, the figure suddenly grew larger and was now towering over him. John stumbled backwards at this development. "You cannot have him, John. I will not let you. You do not deserve to be here." Fear pulsed through every fiber of his being. He now somehow recognized the towering figure before him. He could sense her anger. He could feel her hatred of him, and despite this realization, he refused to yield to her. "You are not real. You are dead. I know you are dead, Jenny, because I killed you." The vile stench of his own words left him reeling. He had never spoken those words aloud before. They existed only within the depths of his guilt-ridden mind. "Yes, you did, didn't you? And you almost killed my sister Deidre as well, didn't you? What did you do, John?" Her voice was now dark and powerful, and it was grating on him. He was now cowering against the cold steel bars that pressed like shards of ice into his back, terrified at the realization that Jenny was really here before him, and that she knew everything that he had done. He could feel that she would never stop until he admitted everything. I didn't mean to. I couldn't stop. She lied to me, and I had to teach her a lesson. It was as if a floodgate had opened, and he could no longer stop this truth from flowing out of him. She lied. She hid my child from me. She hid you from me. She deserved what she got. I didn't kill her, but I had to teach her a lesson. Your child? Jenny was almost screaming at him now. Drew was never your child. Deidre had 2 sons, John, and they were never yours. She deserved so much better. You stole her and Drew from me, from Joey, and from their father James. I will not let you have him, John. You do not deserve to be here. As Jenny's anger grew, so too did her form. The rage was feeding her strength somehow, and John was now cringing from her on the floor. You don't belong here, John. In that very instant, the figure transformed into blinding light, and John was now screaming at the pain of stark whiteness, searing into his dark, adjusted eyes. Suddenly the light disappeared. The cell was once again dimly lit, and John lay in a crumpled heap on the floor. His body was lying there, but his mind and soul were absent. When morning came, they found him there like that, still living and breathing, but unable to move or speak. He was just gone. Chapter 4. James and his boys had just finished dinner together when there was a knock at the door. They had spent the last day together trying to make sense of the bizarre circumstances they found themselves in, but had been expecting the police to call in with an update. James welcomed in the 2 police, and they all sat together in the living room. He and the boys remained stoic as one officer disclosed the state that John had been discovered in that morning. He went on to say that his crime against Jenny had been known to them, but there was more. He then explained that the boy's real mother, Deidre, had been viciously attacked by John back when they were only very young, and that she had been in a coma ever since. Sadly, we have been unable to prosecute John Walker for his crimes due to a lack of evidence. Up until this morning, we had no witnesses, the officer finished. The group looked puzzled. So, what changed this morning? Joey finally asked. Well, this morning at 3 a.m., your mother Deidre suddenly regained consciousness. She has spent the afternoon giving her statement to police. It was quite a chilling account. That poor woman has truly been through hell. When school break was over, Joey and Drew were more than excited for the first day of school. As they stepped up into the school bus, Drew headed straight over to Alicia and promptly sat next to her. After everything that had happened, there would be no more fear or hesitation in telling someone how he really felt about them. Meanwhile, at the back of the bus, Alicia's younger sister Jill was inviting her 2 friends to join her at lunchtime in the library storeroom. She was very excited at something freaky she had found and wanted to share it with them. It's not dangerous or anything, is it, Jill? One of the girls asked. Of course it isn't, Jill replied. Sometimes you can be such a scaredy cat.